the past, I used to think that being rich only meant financially rich, like what you see in your bank account. But the older and older that I grow up, I'm realizing that the ultimate riches first begin in the mind. Because there's no point to life if you have $10 trillion in your bank account, but your mind is still worrying about how to get the next $1 trillion and whether you will get it or not, or how soon you're going to get it, then it's not actually wealthy. And I realize this when I come out in nature. Every time I come out to nature, I this mind that was worrying so much and having so many thoughts disappear for a moment. And you may realize this when you get out in nature too. For some people, it may be like a split second for a moment, or you may experience it for hours and hours, which I'm experiencing right now. And it just lets us to be aware of how normally when we go about our day-to-day life, we are so not in our true nature. It's almost like as if you are free, like you're a free bird. But imagine that your whole life, what you think your whole life, when you're going about your day-to-day job, your work, your other daily activities, you imagine that you are a free bird and you are wearing this 20-pound weight. Each 20-pound weight is hanging off each hand of yours. And this is how it feels like when you are actually worrying, when you're actually overthinking about the future, thinking about what's going to happen and whether you're going to make it through, whether you'll be all right or not. And I feel that it is so normalized. So normalized because even when we look at social media, we see these messages that's triggering that worrying part of the brain all the time. We see things that make us worry, like, oh, this person has this. What if I don't have the same thing? What if I don't have the same luxury boat or the penthouse, or we compare ourselves with people on there. Or we see things that make us worry, like, hey, if you don't do this, you're going to become this. And I see this whether it's in terms of your business or your career or your relationships. A lot of people are caught up in the worrying state of that next goalpost that you're going to get. So let's say if you are single and you want to get into a relationship, you get into that, your mind gets into that worrying state of like, oh, what is this person the right person or not? Or things like, oh, what will Jack or Mark or whatever, what are they thinking about me, right? How can I make them think this way, right? We always get into that, like this little mind that is trying to get to things, that doesn't feel quite settled right now. That feels like there's something missing and you need to fix it and you need to worry about what's going to happen. And I see this playing out like in the past, let's say in my relationships, it was still like when I was dating my husband, my mind was, yes, I had so much confidence and I embodied a lot of it, but then that little quiet part of my mind was still wondering like, oh, will he date me? When will we become official? And still it just doesn't feel good. And even when we're in a relationship, that little part of the mind is like, oh, what if will we get married? Blah, 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 right? It always becomes this next thing. And then when we eventually do become married, then to other people, which it's not my concern right now, but to some people, it's like, oh, when are we going to have kids? What will we do? Right? There is always something that if once you worry, you will keep continuing to find things to worry about, whether that's in your love life or whether that's in your career or your business. And again, the same thing in my business in the past. I used to be like worrying so much of like when my business is going to take off and how much I'm going to make this month and things like that. And I saw this burden wearing me so much that I can't even do things with 100% of my desire, like 100% of my will, 100% of my true desire, 100% of joy. I cannot do it because there is a part of my brain that was lingering in the back of my mind of, will I be able to make it to the next outcome or not? And the same way, like last year, I started going full time in my business as I have finished my PhD. And a part of my brain was always wondering, like, what if this money runs out? And what if I have to like go back to a full time job and I can't do this, right? So even though I was like creating content and I was like putting myself out there, there was still a part of my mind that worries. And what I realized is that somehow you make it through. Like whether you worry or not, worrying is not going to produce any significant outcome. Like that's what you have to realize, is that worrying is not going to add anything onto your life. In fact, it is only subtracting what you will get because it is taking your joy, your expansion, your lightness of it. So when you're worrying, you're not as free. So that means you can't create as much. You can't interact with people as deeply as you want. You know, you can't put yourself out there with your most inner confidence and power as you want, because there is a part of your mind that feels like it has to cling onto an outcome. And so you're not as free. You're not as limitless as who you would like to be. And to some people, I see this worrying mind exhausting you. In fact, it is exhausting you. Maybe you may see that if you run a business or you're an entrepreneur yourself, you will see that when you're worrying, in fact, you get less things done because you're in your head. And it's not even a matter of productivity and how much you get things done. It's more than that. It's like you are not as effective as much. You are not in the flow as much. And the worrying mind only takes you out of flow. So imagine if you're surfboarding, right? I see that life is like surfboarding. You're surfboarding, you want to get into the flow of it. You want to like be so much in the flow riding those waves. But if you're worrying, even if it's for a split second, it's going to take you out of that flow because you're not in tune with your environment anymore. You're not connected to the world anymore, but rather you stay inside your head. And that is why if you truly want to live a life that is like your dream life, is felt and experienced and tasted and touched every day, which is like the goal of this channel, which is my intention with this channel, is that you experience that dream life every day. Not only when you get to a goalpost outcome, but every single day of your life, you feel that perfect peace and presence with yourself. If that is your desire, and if you want to make the fullest out of life, it is essential to realize that worrying does not serve you any good. It does not make things come faster to you. In fact, even if it's fast, it's coming from a place of control, so you will not be able to sustain it as much because you're not in your true nature, your true frequency, your true essence. Imagine just like this little bird, right? How can this little bird keep on flying if that 10-pound weight, 20-pound weight is on each little hand? We can't. And just like that, the worrying mind is only keeping us away. When the truth is that without this worrying mind, there is so much more to be experienced. Your connection with others will be deeper, and you will even receive way more ideas, way more life, way more of what life wants to do, and life will speak to you. Life will be guiding you. Life will be showing you. And you will find that worrying mind only happens because this mind is afraid that it won't survive. It won't be able to make it. It's afraid. It is in fear. And as long as we are living in a place of fear, we will not be able to experience the true joy of love. If there is a fear in the back of your mind, it's like a shadow that is haunting, a shadow, a dark shadow inside your house. As long as there is that shadow, you will not be able to see life for what it is. You will not be able to see the beauty of life, the joy, the love that is embedded in every fabric of life. We will not be able to see it when there is a shadow, when there is a fear. And worrying is a form of fear. And what you'll see that consciousness will always exist. Consciousness, you, the you, who you are, will always exist. So no matter what situations will come at you, you will exist. You will always exist. You are eternal. You are the eternal love. You are the love that always exists. And yes, no matter what situations will be okay, you will be fine because you have been fine all along. You have existed through the hard times that you've been through. You have existed. You have done it all. And you know it. You know that regardless of whatever life throws at you, whatever life comes at way, just like when you're surfing, no matter how big of a wave, an ocean wave is going to come, you can handle it. And the only part that cannot handle is the one who is worrying, the one who is fearing, and the one who is trying to control the future.